right. I think we can get started. Ryan, Jim, are you good with getting started?
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me.
All right, and Denise, I think we're ready. Whenever you're ready.
We're live, ready to go.
All right, awesome. Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'd like to just thank everyone for attending our business grant workshop and webinar today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Oliva. I'm a councilman here for the town of Hammonton. I'm also the co-chair of the Economic Impact Committee, along with my good friend and colleague, Rich Raymond, who is the president of, the president of Hammonton's Main Street organization and president of ARH Civil Solutions in town. Today we have with us Ryan Neboda. Ryan is a partner at No Boundary Advisors, and he is also the vice president of Hammonton's Main Street organization. And we have Jim Donio. Jim Donio is the Hammonton Town Advocate, and he is also the co-chair of the Hammonton Coronavirus Task Force. So I thank you guys for joining. If you have joined one of our webinars in the past, you're a little familiar with kind of how this works. We'll appreciate if everyone keep their audio and video off. At the moment, we'll have just those who are presenting with their audio and video on. And if you have any questions at any time as we start to review any information, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'll ask some questions that come from the chat. I'll narrate them to Jim and Ryan, who are going to be giving a good amount of information out today. What I'd like to make sure everyone continues to recognize is that this situation is very fluid, as it has been, as we've had webinars in April and May. Things that come out from the federal government or at the state level are changing rather rapidly. So this was all put together very quickly. We got some information mid to late last week, and we said, let's work through the weekend, get as much of this information ready for people as possible, so everyone is put in the best possible position to secure some dollars for their businesses or find out if they are eligible for that. So we do have Spanish translation on the line as well. So if you have a question and you would like to put that in Spanish, that's also available. And just as a fair warning, we are live on Channel 9. This is being recorded, and it will be available at hammonton.com moving forward. And as always, if you have any questions, you can always feel free to email help@hammonton.com or call our hotline at 609-925-1166. If someone doesn't answer the phone when you call, please leave a message and we will make sure we get it right back to you. Typically, we try to get back to everybody within a day or so. Thank you everyone for coming. Today, what we're going to talk a little bit about is new NJEDA grants and some additional dollars that we realize may be available or are available to various different groups. And this is different, a little bit different than the way NJEDA or PPP had currently run in the past. There's a little bit different of an application process. There's a little bit different of the way they're kind of putting some things in buckets. So we have two experts on the line today between Jim and Ryan to kind of help us sort through some of this and give everybody a little bit more detailed information. So Jim, if it's okay, I want to kind of swing and pivot to you. This is kind of like the third phase of what NJEDA is doing, and it looks like some things are kind of loose as to who is eligible, who is not. I know there was kind of the previous mantra of apply, apply, apply. For that here, does that kind of still hold true with this program here?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my original motto, apply, apply, apply. So always apply, as long as you're not putting fraudulent or completely inaccurate information in there. When you do apply, you're always safe to apply, or at least try to go through the pre-registration or the pre-screening. And even if you get kicked out on that, just remember that you can always call us. Let's say you have a question. I did speak to a couple business owners in the last couple of weeks that were even on some of these workshops or webinars earlier in the year, and who I assumed had applied for certain things and they hadn't. And that's disheartening, right? Because the whole point of us doing all this is we want to make sure that everybody does. If you have any questions, not just on this, but on any grant or anything really related to your business, and you just kind of want to run something by us, scenario or anything, we're very available. We might not have an immediate answer because things are changing so quickly, like Councilman Oliva had said, but you can always reach out to us. Obviously, get whatever information you can get at hammonton.com, but then also give us a call at our Coronavirus Task Force hotline at 609-925-1166. And that's staffed by volunteers right here. You know, I pick it up sometimes, other folks do. So you're always welcome to call that number. We do try to keep everything confidential because we know how tough it is, right? It's tough right now trying to get good, reliable information because it's so gray. You could also email info@hammonton.com, info@hammonton.com. So to Jonathan's point though, yes, and I think Ryan's going to really kind of do a deep dive in a short period of time here into the NJEDA. First thing to know would be just if you've previously applied, whether you applied and were rejected or you applied and received round 1 or round 2 for the NJEDA, and all the NJEDA stands for is New Jersey Economic Development Authority. So it's just federal funds and some state, but mostly federal funds that are flowing through to businesses, and they want to get it out there as quickly as they can. So the first step would be just get your information together and then quickly go on hammonton.com if you want and click on that NJEDA link. You can also Google NJEDA round 3 grants and it should pop up, but you could just, easiest way would be to know it's a verified correct link to go to hammonton.com. And the most important thing and the urgent thing for anybody on this call or anyone watching in the next day or so, if you have not done your pre-registration, and again, Ryan's going to get into this deeper, but if you've not done your pre-registration, do it now. Take the time because it puts you in a good position to be eligible to apply for the grant later this week. So if you don't do that now, and Ryan, what's the cutoff again? It's the cutoff for the 5 p.m. tomorrow, right?
5 p.m. on Tuesday, the 27th is when the pre-registration needs to be completed by.
In case anyone's watching this after the fact, right? And so if you did not do your pre-registration or do not do your pre-registration by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, October 27th, do it before then in case you run into any issues, but try and do it today or early tomorrow if you can. You'll be thankful you did because you're not guaranteed to get the grant, but you are guaranteed to at least get to the next step, which would be the actual grant application process, which Ryan's going to get into in a minute here. And he is the most knowledgeable of us on this call. I certainly have done some research into it and familiar with it and helped some folks already, but I'm going to kind of lean on Ryan. I think that's Councilman Oliva's plan for today. Now, Jonathan, we're going to wrap up then with the local grant, correct? The local grant process? Okay.
Yep. I'd like to catch with NJDA first, and then Jim, I'll swing it back to you because there is some information also on Hammonton.com about our local grant.
So the only thing I want to say, not to confuse the issue, would be for anybody that jumps off this call or thinks, okay, I already did my NJEDA, I'm good. Take the extra minute. If you got an email from either Cassie Iacovelli from Main Street or John Rumfalo for the Chamber of Commerce, take the extra minute or go to hammonton.com and click on the additional link, which would be a Hammonton Business Grant questionnaire. Take that as well, because you're going to be very thankful you did, because there's a possibility of some additional funding beyond this NJEDA funding. So I know that's a little confusing. We're not trying to make it harder, but we have multiple rounds at multiple levels of grants at federal, state, county, and local level, and several tiers on the local level too. And so the thing is, the more data we can get early, the higher the likelihood we could try and patch you in with the best type of grant. But that is not to take anything away from what Ryan's about to talk to. So I'm going to let Ryan take it away, I guess, with the NJEDA round 3 grant process.
Thank you very much, Jim. And for everyone who's watching this right now, I just want you to know that we're going to be kind of hitting the highlights of this program. Everything that we're going to go through, though, can be viewed publicly at one of the following websites. So you can either go to njeda.com, which is the EDA's website, or if you go to the hammonton.com website and click on the coronavirus response page, the second link on the hot links is for the EDA Phase 3 grant program. Now, some people on this call may have tried to apply for the earlier rounds of this grant and maybe even been lucky enough to receive it. Want to just mention, if you have received an earlier grant, whether it be from the EDA, maybe the Payroll Protection Program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loans, there's no disqualification for receiving this money. So if you've gotten money in the past, you are still eligible to receive this money, number one. Number two, the NJEDA did 2 earlier versions of this grant, and the grant program reached a point called oversubscription, where enough people received the money, and the money was gone within a period of 1 to 2 hours. So the NJEDA, in an effort to try to help businesses, especially those that need it, changed the program for this round, and that's what we're going to go through. So as Jim mentioned, the first step is a pre-registration process that is open right now until 5 p.m. tomorrow. So I would recommend that if you're going to be taking this grant money, that after this call, that you start the pre-registration process. And if you can't do it today for some reason, then do it first thing tomorrow morning, so you have plenty of time in case there's anything that goes awry on your end. Now, there's a few things that are important to do ahead of time. Part of this is things that will qualify and or disqualify your business. Part of this are just good practice, so you have the information you need to complete the pre-registration process in a smooth fashion. First thing is I would pull up copies of your most recently filed tax returns for the business. Now, one thing that is important to note for this program, because of the ongoing pandemic and whatnot, even though technically speaking, all 2019 tax returns were due to have been filed either by September 15th or October 15th of this year, the state of New Jersey is not requiring you to have filed your 2019 tax returns in order to be eligible for this grant. However, you do need to have filed your 2018 tax returns, which were due a little over a year ago by now. So if you have not filed your 2018 tax returns, you are not eligible to receive this grant. As Mr. Donio would like to say, still apply, apply, apply. However, though, just note that the state has been pretty adamant in saying if you haven't filed for 2018, you are not eligible for this. Second part, there is a limitation on the amount of employees, full-time employees a business can have to be eligible for this grant program. The cap is at 50 full-time employees. So if you are on this call and you are in the group of business owners that has an excess of 50 employees, and they qualify employees as full-time. So if you have a part-timer, you can always call our helpline. We can help you make a determination on that. But you, as a rule of thumb, if you have 50 or more employees, you are not going to be eligible for this program either. So ahead of time, though, you want to pull together your tax returns, and there is a very basic process that you're going to need to go through. They're going to need to know things like your business full legal name, the type of entity you are, the type of business you are, right? So whether you're an LLC, an S corporation, so on and so forth, the year you were established, your tax ID number in the business, the number of employees you have, and they're also going to need to know your NAICS code. Most of this information should be on page 1 of your tax return. We are here and available if there are any questions regarding how to track down this information. Now, the whole purpose of this pre-registration process is to help make obtaining the grant money a little bit easier, because the pre-registration application is actually a little bit more intense because you have to fill in this business information, what year you were started, tax ID numbers, so on and so forth. Now, this is the important part. Depending on the type of business you are, dictates when you are actually able to apply to try to get this grant money. So the state of New Jersey has divided the grant money into 3 buckets. The first bucket of money is reserved for restaurants, bars, eateries, cafes. And the state defines this as anyone that has an NAICS code starting with, I believe it's 722. And all this is on our website, by the way, as I mentioned. So if you have an NAICS code that begins with 722, the application process for the first bucket of money opens to you at 9 a.m. on Thursday, the 29th this week. And we highly, highly recommend that you be ready to go on that website to complete the actual application. And there is a sample of the application out on the NJEDA website. We will also load this onto the Town of Hammonton Coronavirus Response page as well. with some basic certification questions that says, we need the money, here's what we're going to use it for, so on and so forth. And, you'd be able to apply for it at that point. But we highly recommend that right at 9 o'clock, 9:01 in the morning, if you are in the restaurant business, Thursday, the 29th, you want to get on and get the application. And that first bucket of money is going to be allocated on a first come, first serve basis. So while the pre-registration process that I mentioned that is due by the end of the day tomorrow, there is no first come, first serve. When the application itself opens on Thursday morning, first in line that hits that complete button on the website has the best chance of getting the money. So first bucket's restaurants. The second bucket of money that the state is allocating is for what they define as micro businesses. So this covers any type of business in the state, including nonprofits. I know we have a couple of nonprofits on the call as well. So nonprofits are eligible for this money. How the state defines a micro business is a business with 5 or less full-time employees. So if you have 6 to 50 full-time employees, you are not eligible under the micro business provision. However, 5 or less full-time, you are able to go on and apply. And this is the important part, at 9 a.m. on Friday the 30th. Once again, this is first come, first serve. So you want to really be on at 9 o'clock, 9:01 to complete that application. We will be putting the sample application out on our website so you can view it. A copy of it is also on the njeda.com website, but you want to make sure you get in there first thing 9 a.m. The third bucket of money is available to all other businesses that are beyond the restaurant business, beyond the micro business. So anybody with less than 50 full-time employees, the application window for you opens up at 9 a.m. on Monday, November 2nd. Once again, first come, first serve. We put this out here with these application dates and times because this is a highly competitive grant. We are cautiously optimistic that it will be slightly easier this time because they're allocating funding for the restaurant industry and they're allocating funding for micro businesses. But if history is any indication, round 1 and round 2, the money was gone in under an hour. So very, very important that you be ready to go on on those start times. So we will have some applications on, like I said, the sample applications on the Hammonton website and the njeda.com. The helplines are available if anyone has any questions. Jonathan, Jim, anything that you think would be important for people to know as we're going through this?
I think that was excellent. There's just two minor things that I think are important, just again, for anybody on this call, and then for any of us that, business owners or otherwise that are on the call that can help spread the word over the next 24 hours or so. So number one, any other of your fellow business people, make sure that they're pre-registering by tomorrow at 5. That's the important thing, Tuesday, the 27th at 5. But to reiterate that, but also the other point I think that's important is the one that relates to headcount of employees. Maybe we should just touch on that a little bit more, Ryan, because I know that you and I have kind of gone into that. I know you covered pretty much most of the other parameters. Headcount, and then also date business had to have been in business by.
Yes.
I think those are 2 important key points that I want to make sure we cover for today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first things first, the business needed to be in existence and operational. So 2 keywords. You had to be, the business had to be formed and you had to be open for business by no later than February the 15th of this year. So if you happen to open your business after mid-February of this year, unfortunately, you will not be eligible for this program. So it's a very good clarification question, Jim. I do appreciate that. Actually, there's one other thing I want to add too, just because it's also on the easy side. I never did mention the amount of the grant that is actually available for you. So probably pretty important to know. So remember, as I mentioned before, there's 3 buckets: the restaurant industry, micro businesses, and all other general businesses. So for the restaurant industry, the NAICS code 722, eateries and dining establishments, the minimum amount of the grant that you are eligible to receive is $10,000. So if you have 5 or fewer employees, you're eligible for a $10,000 grant. If you have 6 to 25 employees, you will receive up to $15,000 in grant money. and 26 to 50 employees will receive up to $20,000. Now, the next group are the micro businesses, which are 5 or fewer employees. They're eligible to receive up to $5,000. And then the final group, which is all other businesses, so businesses with 6 to 25 employees, up to $10,000, 26 to 50 full-time employees, up to $15,000. Now, Jim, you also mentioned about calculating the headcount. So this is actually kind of interesting because this isn't one when I took the initial look at it, I did not see them looking at the full-time equivalency. Has that changed though since you've last looked at it?
No, it hasn't. In fact, I was going to actually ask you if you noticed it changed, but no, that's why, because I think we're all so used to kind of like having to calculate, right? Even the business owners, we're all getting used to having to calculate out what is an quote unquote employee, right? Whether it's a full-time equivalent, FTE. I guess they use different initials for different entities, but I think it's important that we cover that. I don't see where I think it just lists full-time and part-time, but it doesn't talk about an equivalency as far as I can see in the pre-registration.
Yep, I did not see that either. So I'm glad that I'm not losing my mind because I didn't see that there. And then also an important reference document, if you're going to be pulling together this application, the state actually recommends that you use your payroll tax return if you have one. I know some small businesses, especially if you're a mom and pop business, don't necessarily have a payroll tax return because you don't have payroll. But if you do have payroll, you are going to want to use your state payroll tax return, which is called the WR30. That's what they recommend as the best item to use. Like I said, not everybody has these. If you don't have one, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. It's not like you're going to be ineligible for this program or whatnot. But if you have the ability to get your most recent WR30 form, which would have been from last quarter ending June of this year, that's the best reference point you have to complete that section. If not, I believe, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, that you are able to estimate your payroll for those employees.
Yeah, so that's the tricky part. There aren't a lot of, as we keep saying with all of these grants, some of the specifics are very specific, and then some other areas are very vague. And I think this is one of those where use your best judgment. Don't obviously put anything that's fraudulent, of course. Obviously, I know that goes without saying, but because we do read about these things in other states and in other areas of the country, we want to make sure we reiterate that here. Don't ever do anything that isn't. So if your business wasn't fully functioning before that date, February, was it 15th, Ryan?
February 15th.
15th, then don't try and apply. If you don't actually have enough employees and it's nowhere near, it's not even close, it's like just no question, then apply, but put the correct data in there and you'll probably get rejected. As far as though calculating out what a full-time employee is, well, because they did not define it, at least in the data that we've seen, and at this moment, or as of yesterday, I guess when I looked at it last, then I think you can get a little creative there. Again, you don't want to do anything that would be inappropriate or unethical, but you certainly can use your good, if you consider someone full-time, some people consider, obviously many places consider 40 hours full-time, others consider 35 or 32 and a half or 30, whatever it may be. And Ryan, you could speak to this with your accounting background better than I can, but it is a little bit of a gray area. So, and is it full-time equivalents? Is it actual heads? Do you combine, two of the part-timers? I don't think so for this grant. It doesn't appear that they want to know the part-timers, but as far as what the definition of a full-time, quote unquote, full-time person, I think that is open to interpretation. So use your best judgment on that, everyone. And the minimum requirement, though, Ryan, again, is 2, correct? 2 employees?
No, actually, you could be two. No, the minimum. It could be 1.
It could be 1. Okay.
You could be owner.
1 plus the owner, I guess, is what they consider it, or now. Is that not correct?
You could even be just a sole. You could even just be a sole owner and be eligible. And that's where we kind of said before, where if you're a sole owner, you're not necessarily going to have payroll depending on how your business is set up. So that's where you can estimate and say, okay, in a given year, I, as the single owner of this business, make, say, $40,000 per year. So you can, work off of that.
But to clarify again, 1099, quote
do
unquote,
not count.
Right. Quote, folks who, I know a lot of employers will say, or companies will say, okay, well, I have 1099 quote employees. Well, an employee is someone who gets W-2 wages, right? or in the case of an owner, a shareholder, a partner, an owner, it could be a draw, right? Someone gets a distribution or something. I'm assuming anyway that leeway might be there for those folks.
It does specifically exist for this, not 1099. The three most important. The three most important qualifier and/or disqualifier, depending on how you want to look at it for this program, is you must have been in existence and been operating as of February 15th. If your doors were not open on February 15th, then you are not eligible. Number two, you need to have filed at least your 2018 tax returns. If you have not filed your 2018 tax returns, I just want to emphasize, if you're late on 2019, they're okay with that. But you had to have filed at least your 2018. If you didn't file 2018, you are not eligible. Third, 1099 employees do not count towards this. As a reference point, by the way, it is illegal to have a 1099 employee. So technically speaking, if you have a 1099 employee, they are considered a micro business unto themselves, and they actually would be eligible to apply for this program individually, but that's a whole another topic.
Right.
So if you have 1099 employees, but you are still one sole employee of your business, you are eligible to apply. That's
correct. You as the one sole employee / owner. Correct.
It looks like there's some questions, Jonathan. Should we cover those maybe?
Yes. So just kind of scrolling through, just to let everyone know, yes, Ryan's giving a lot of information out right now. This is going to be available at Hammonton.com, both in English and in Spanish. So then any of the questions that we answer from today, there will be a question log that will be available on the website also in English and in Spanish. Ryan, we do have a question that asks, how is the actual award amount calculated? Do we have any information on that? It's between 26 and 50 might be 20,000, but how do we know it's who gets 20 or more?
Yeah, great question, actually. I have not seen a specific guidance on this. On the sample application, there is a line item where they ask you how much money are you seeking for the purposes of this grant. So what I would recommend to anybody is, depending on which bucket you're in, right? So you're the restaurant, the micro business, or the general business. And then depending on what your employee headcount is, whatever the maximum amount you're eligible for, that's what I would put in.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think
there's no formula.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no hard. It doesn't appear as though there's any hard formula. But as he said, those thresholds, kind of those ranges, are really the key, and that's where there's a little bit of a gray area. So, like for example, as he mentioned, if it's help me out, Ryan. I don't have it in my notes here.
If you're 5 or fewer employees, right, you're eligible for $5,000. So I would put in where it says how much money are you seeking, put in $5,000. The one exception is if you were a restaurant or a drinking establishment that is 5 or fewer, you're actually eligible for $10,000. So you would put in $10,000 if you were a restaurant. All this information is on the Hammonton COVID response page and on the njeda.com grant page as well. And I think there's also a question in there about Spanish language. The application is available in many languages: Spanish, Arabic, Mandarin, Cantonese, Hindi, Italian, Korean, quite a few languages out here. So.
Fantastic. Now, for the application process, we have a question that says, are there other attachments outside of, I think, our tax returns, or is the tax return a requirement to be attachment of the application, or are there other documents we can gather ahead of time to make our application?
So no attachments are required for the purposes of the application. Everything is filled out on the actual website in the form of type boxes or yes or no questions. The purpose of gathering the tax return and or payroll tax return is because a lot, if not all, of the information that you are going to need to complete the application should exist on page 1 of that return.
Okay, and I just want to make sure we hit it, because we've said it a couple times. Just want to make sure your pre-registration is not your application. They are two separate things. Your pre-registration is due by tomorrow at 5 p.m. Restaurants then can apply on Thursday, 10/29 at 9 a.m. Micro businesses, which are less than 5 full-time employees, can apply Friday, 10:30 at 9 a.m. And then all other businesses that have less than 50 full-time employees can apply 9 a.m. on Monday, November 2nd.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And in terms of allocating time, the pre-registration application should take somebody roughly anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. The actual application on those mornings, depending on what bucket you're in, having reviewed the sample application, should take 5 to 10 minutes to complete. So if you need to set aside a little time, that's about what I would plan to set aside.
Okay. Are there, outside of the information we're given today, are there any other links that we might be able to make available to share some information about, about the grant as a whole? I think there was a pre-registration link that might have had some information.
I'm just looking to see if we have it on the response page already. I believe we do. Yeah, so if you go on the Hammonton Coronavirus Response page, the second link that you were able to click on is NJEDA Small Business Emergency Assistance Grants Available. If you click on that, that takes you to the most comprehensive digest. So the first link on there is the sample application for the grant. The second link is for the pre-registration. If you go a little further down, they have the non-English language application links. And if for any reason anyone has any questions on any of this, we are available for assistance if need be. But that second link on the Hammonton Coronavirus Response page would probably be the single best resource for someone to reference.
Fantastic. I know we kind of covered a lot of information, NJEDA. Ryan, if you don't have anything else that you feel is imperative, I would like to kind of pivot over to some of the local grants. Jim,
absolutely.
Talk about that. But Ryan, anything to close?
No, just like I said, I would make a point this afternoon, if not early tomorrow morning, complete the pre-registration process. Be prepared, depending on which one of those buckets of money you feel you qualify for, to be ready to go at 9:01 the morning of. Third thing is just be prepared to not receive the money. Like I said, the first 2 times these programs came through, the money was gone in under an hour. We are hopeful with how they divvied it up, especially for the restaurant businesses, that this gives you a fair crack. I did a little back of napkin math based on the number of businesses in the state of New Jersey that are eligible for this program against the amount of money allocated. I think 1 in 10 restaurants and bars should be able to get this money. So I think those are pretty good odds as compared to some of the earlier programs. But if you're on this call and you're in the restaurant business, jump on this immediately. I think this is one of the best opportunities you're going to have. Also for the mom and pop businesses, one owner or 2 people in a business, I think this is another great opportunity. So just be ready to jump right on this. The other businesses, larger businesses, the pool of money available relative, I think it's going to be a really tough fight to get on there, but still try. But I can't emphasize enough. Be ready to do it right at 9:01 in the morning.
Yep. And the only other thing I would say, I think Ryan, covered pretty much basically everything. So the only other thing I would say is, in addition to going immediately today or early tomorrow to Hammonton.com and then drilling down to the NJEDA grant application, I would say that then fill it out as quickly as you can and as accurately, and then no later than tomorrow, Tuesday, the 27th at 5 p.m. and certainly well before that, so that you don't do it last minute and miss the deadline. Second thing would be note, as Ryan said, note the date that you're supposed to apply and be ready. Clear your deck on that day and get the copy of the sample application so that you have all your info ready to put your sample info answers into sample application info answers into a Word document, so that then you can be ready on the morning of, as soon as right at 9 a.m. or just before 9 a.m. to be ready to go on that state website, the NJEDA website, copy and paste your answers right into the application form online, so that then and any additional attachments that might be required, so that you can just hit upload and submit and be one of the first people in that first half an hour or so. to get your grant application accepted. I know, whenever we're doing grant applications for the town or for businesses or nonprofits, that's what we always make, especially ones that are going to be very heavily, very popular. Then we try to make sure that we do that, and it's worked pretty effectively. So that's a little tip that I would recommend to everybody as they're doing any grant, but in particular ones like these that are very timed and specific and are absolutely going to run out, as Ryan said.
Perfect. Well, Ryan, thank you very much for that background on NJEDA. And with that, Jim, I kind of want to pivot to some things that are happening more a little locally. If you go to Hammonton.com, the very first link, it says time sensitive. It says funding opportunities available. If you click on that link, it will bring you to a web page where there's essentially two buttons that say click here. The first one is click here for the link to the NJEDA website. That's what Ryan was just talking about some more information that's available. It's a pretty good walkthrough about the NJEDA side. Second thing, here's where we kind of pivot to something that's a little more local, different bucket of money, so to speak. It says click here for a business grant questionnaire. On our website, we've developed a small questionnaire. Can't take more than 3 or 4 minutes to kind of put together to help determine who may or may not be eligible for some more local dollars that could be available for this. So, Jim, I want to pivot to you, see if you can give a little bit of background about kind of what's happening at the local level and dollars that could be available for our businesses here.
Yeah, so thanks, Jonathan. So the Coronavirus Task Force and the subcommittee, the Economic Impact Committee, has kind of gotten together to try and act as a clearinghouse for a lot of these grants. That's who's running this workshop, and that's what, we're all trying to work collaboratively. So that includes the town, the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, and the Hammonton Revitalization Corporation, and other entities, all trying to work to figure out, identify sources of grants that we can get, not just directly to businesses and showcase them, but then also other funds that might exist that we can tap into as a community or as nonprofits, which then we can re-grant to businesses here in the community. So that's a long way of saying there are some localized kind of grants, county level localized grants that are still funded by the federal or state government, basically, that flow through. So we're trying to identify those quickly, and some of them have to be turned around like ridiculously fast because there are some deadlines that are required for some of these funds to be spent by the end of the year, and by the end of this year, like in December, in a little over a month and a half. So basically, as Jonathan said, what we want to do is we want to encourage everybody, any business owner in town, regardless of whether you have employees, whether you own or rent the space you're in. I would say, you would have had to been in business, prior to February 15th, still prior to the pandemic hitting. But basically, even if you weren't, just apply anyway, because we have a local link, a local clearinghouse, basically, where we're taking in all this data and information to try to pair you with the grant funds on a local, county, state, or federal level that fit the best for you. So you may be prohibited from the first little pot of money that we might have access to, or one batch of funds, but there may be others that open up. And what we want to make sure we do is get every dollar we can coming into the town for its business owners and its economic vitality, and to make sure we keep Hammonton kind of staying strong through this pandemic till whatever the other side looks like. And so I guess, again, the best thing that we could say and best recommendation we can give is apply, but also is to go to the website, go to Hammonton.com, drill down right into that first, the Coronavirus Task Force, the hub, and get right to that first hyperlink right on that page. And it will say, what's the exact phrasing? As I know it doesn't say questionnaire. It says
business grant questionnaire.
Yeah, business grant questionnaire.
There we go. It does say that. That's even better. Okay, so then hit that, fill that out. That is monitored by local folks. We know it can be a little tough or a little challenging sometimes, or there's a little hesitance to say, hey, I don't want people knowing my business. We understand that. That's that's the only downside, if there is one. We're going to try and keep it very confidential. There will be local people who review this. It may have to go up to another tier up from there. But regardless, it is important that we do this. It's the only way that we can try and gauge what the status of your business is, and also hopefully put you in and connect you with the right grant resource that we have available. So there's a bucket of funds there'll be various buckets of funds available, some more immediately than others, some in the next week or so, others. So if you start to hear, oh, I heard this one got a grant or that one got a grant, business owner, maybe you weren't eligible because you had already gotten an earlier round of NJEDA funding, let's say, for example, for one batch of grants. But we have another batch coming up where it won't matter if you've gotten that funding. So don't feel like I'm probably not going to be eligible or I won't get any of that money. Apply anyway, because even if it's not in the next week or 10 days, it might be next month or, by early January. And it's still better to apply and get yourself in the pipeline. It's a very simple application. I say an application, it's a questionnaire first that'll be followed up by a very, very simple basic application and certification sheet. And so if you are eligible for any particular local or county kind of funded grant, we will do this questionnaire as a way to get you in that right pipeline. So that's step one. Step two will be, hey, we're going to do a quick review and then try and partner the right businesses with the right bucket of funds. And then step three will be, if you weren't eligible for that, whatever's immediately available, that then we kind of pair you off and sort of like act as a little bit like a valet or a concierge, and we start to kind of connect you with the right funds for the right business. That's pretty much it. I know that I'd like to be able to say we have $500,000 in all these different buckets locally right now. We can't say that yet, but it could be a substantial amount of money into the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are available to local businesses. That is why it's important for you to start to put your fill out this questionnaire and get it in. Again, that's for businesses that are within the borders of the town of Hammonton. We can't control outside of that. We aren't able to re-grant outside of the borders of the town of Hammonton. So if you're a business owner and you have a business like right over the border in Mullica or Chemung or somewhere like that, or Winslow or Folsom, you'd have to check with your own municipalities or any other funds up the chain. For here, this is locally managed only within the borders of the town of Hammonton. So that's all that we can kind of are allowed to focus on within the law. So it's a very simple, as I said, questionnaire. It'll take you moments to really, a handful of minutes at best. So I would say do that as quickly as you can. And then you could always put in the notes, I'd like to tell you more about my business, or I don't feel comfortable sharing this, but I'd like to speak to someone about this. Put that in the notes too, if you don't feel comfortable kind of detailing everything. But it's a very simple form questionnaire, and I would strongly recommend pretty much every business in town taking the moment to fill that out. If you know of a business, if you've been not harmed too much by the pandemic, but you know of someone or a business that's that maybe could really use this and they're not on this call, or you don't think they're aware of it, please let us know, or just let them know and tell them to fill that out as quickly as possible. As I said, certain deadlines will be missed in the next few days probably if people don't get it in, but there will be more rounds, so still keep submitting it. And again, that's completely separate and autonomous from the NJEDA grants or PPP or EIDL. We'll ask about that in the questionnaire, but that doesn't mean just because you check any of those boxes, you're prohibited from getting certain funds. From one grant, you may be prohibited, but another you might not. So please answer honestly and accurately as of today. We'll do a follow-up then with you once we have some funding that you might be eligible for. I hope that answers questions. The timelines, I'd love to be able to give everybody a timeline, but it keeps changing, and the state and county and others, are trying to get it out there into businesses' hands as quickly as possible. And I can tell you that the mayor has made it very clear to me. I don't know if he's going to bring it up at the council meeting tonight, or Councilman Oliva, you probably are as well from your committee report. But he's made it very clear that he wants any local dollars, dollars that this task force can govern over, or any local dollars that can go to businesses, to get to them as quickly as possible, because we know that there are a lot of businesses struggling. He also wanted me to make a disclaimer that no businesses owned by the mayor will be seeking any local funds at all. He might go for any state or federal, but he's not seeking any local funds, even though his businesses would be eligible. He is not seeking, or any of his businesses, any local funds. So a kind of disclaimer at the end of the conversation here about that.
So just to kind of touch on two different things. These are two different things here. You saw a lot of very structured. You had the NJEDA apply at this time. These are all the deadlines. This is everything. on this other side, here as we talk about things that are a little more local, all that is still kind of firming up. So we don't have the, apply, for this date, or this much money is available, or that's all kind of continuing to be ironed out. But the important thing is to find out if you'll be eligible under what is perceived as current guidelines. There's a very short questionnaire, like Jim said, moments, 2-3 minutes, a little bit about your business and if you've received any funds in the past, and then just any comments or thoughts you might have. It's pretty simple. I'll be reviewing this, as Jim had said, I'll be reviewing this with the mayor and council at the council meeting this afternoon, or this evening at 7 p.m. And then there may be some, and hopefully there's some additional information that come out at that point too. But all the information from today's conversation can be found at Hammonton.com. In that very first link, that's predominantly where you're going to be able to find NJEDA link, as well as this business grant link, as we find new information. Because like we were saying, this is all very fluid. As we find new information, we're going to continue to update the website, because some of those pieces of information may be 1 or 2 things. So rather than host a webinar to give everybody a 60-second blurb of what is new, we're going to make sure that that information is available on the website. So check frequently, check it often. Check it often, check it a bunch, and we're going to be getting more information up there consistently over the course of the next couple of days and weeks. So with that, Ryan or Jim, do you have anything you want to just kind of say in closing about applying or anything in general before we kind of break? I don't see any other questions that we've gotten from the chat. I asked some of the questions that I got texted from some people who are watching on Channel 9. And as we have more questions, we'll make sure the answers get up on our website. But if you have anything you'd like to leave everybody with, I'm happy, Ryan, to kind of kick it to you first.
By all means. Actually, like I said, make sure we hit those deadlines for the NJEDA grant money. Very important. Second thing, though, is to definitely fill out that business grant questionnaire. There is going to be a good amount of new programs that will be emerging over the next couple of months here, and as different funding allocations hit, and really want to be able to use this as a resource to help us help your business. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of completing that questionnaire.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. And Jim, I'll swing it to you also.
No, I just want to thank Ryan for volunteering his time and all the volunteers that step up. I know, Rich Raymond has dedicated a lot of time in turning that online business grant questionnaire around like in minutes, and his team as well. And we really can't thank everyone involved. I want to thank, of course, Councilman Oliva, and then also Cassie Iacovelli from Main Street and John Rumfalo from the Chamber of Commerce, because, again, we're working collaboratively here, and it's not to pat anybody on the back, but a lot of other towns aren't doing this. And that's that's just a testament to our community and the volunteer spirit and the professionalism of how well we all collaborate with each other. And moments like these over these last few months are indicative of how great this town is when it comes together. So I really just want to thank everybody for stepping up. But again, it all comes down to now the business owners. So we put it out there. We're going to continue to do that over the course of the next couple of months, as Ryan said, but now it's going to take you taking that moment out of your busy schedules to now try to apply, because the funding exists. You might not get it, but it certainly exists, and it's certainly worth taking those minutes to apply and be prepared for a quick application process, but at least get all your information together. I would say that's it, really, in a nutshell. We will continue to update everyone, as Jonathan said, at Hammonton.com. Also on the Hammonton, New Jersey Facebook page. The town will release it to a degree on theirs, although we're trying not to clutter that with too much of this information, and keep it on the Hammonton, New Jersey page. And then also, just if you're not on either John Rumfalo or Cassie Iacovelli's business owner or business manager email lists, make sure you get on those. And from there, again, just Hammonton.com, and then our hotline 609-925-1166, or info@Hammonton.com with any, or help rather. Did I say info? Help@Hammonton.com. Help@Hammonton.com is our email address if you have questions too.
Well, I'd like to thank you both, Ryan, Jim. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to catch up with us and to catch up with our businesses and our residents. I'd also like to really thank Ms. Denise Mazzio. She is always our incredible facilitator. She always makes sure everything is running smooth. And you know, during the spring and summer months, we've had a lot of businesses who have been successful in EIDL and PPP and have acquired quite a bit of money and quite a bit of dollars. And I'd really attribute that to this open discussion that we're able to have and being able to make this information available. So if you were on today, I know Jim had said this, I just want to echo it. If you were on today and you know somebody who couldn't be, and maybe somebody who can't get to the website in the next day because they're busy, and you know that there's this window that's the next 24 hours for NJ EDA, please just shoot a text, give a phone call to that person, and let them know there's something available. You know, let me help you. If you see somebody who is in need of help, and we at Economic Impact Committee can help that group, please just don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. We all want to get over the finish line together. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. This recording will be available moving forward. It'll be available on our website, and it may be replayed on Channel 9. I'll work with Denise on that. And as always, any questions, help@hammonton.com, or you can always give a phone call at 609-925-1166. But I'd like to thank everybody, and look forward to talking with you all soon.
Thank you again. Have a great day.
Good
luck, everyone.
Thank you all.